What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a client case study where I'll walk you through the entire process that her and I went through to be able to build a plan for her to get her sustainable fat loss so you can do so for yourself. In order to break it all down, I built a chart for you on my computer, which I will send you over to here in a second. Before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to do hard shit and be confident, but most importantly, remember to have the courage to be uncomfortable. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to my computer now where I'll break it all down for you. All right, guys, I have you on my computer now where we're going to discuss my client's progression. As you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen, we're going to talk about every single thing that she did to be able to get where she is and also everything that she's going to continue to execute on to get her to her dream physique. Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight this specific part of the journey is because this is where a lot of people tend to feel discouraged and tend to give up because they've made a lot of progress. They've been working hard, but they're not quite where they want to be yet. And so they feel a little bit lost. They're not really sure what to do or how to move forward. So in this video, I'm going to highlight how to help you if you are at her point A, or how to help you if you're at her current position so that ultimately both of you guys can get to point B. Now, I do want to highlight a few key changes here in her physique. As you can see, inches have gone down in the way she's decreased in size. She's lost fat mass, decreased her body fat percentage. But the biggest difference you can see here is in between her facial structure. You can see that she's lost the double chin. She has a more defined jawline. She's lost face fat and she has reduced the inflammation and puffiness in her face, which is what's leading me to believe that's why a lot of people are asking her, what diet are you on? Did you start working out? What have you been doing different? Because she has mentioned to me that her coworkers and her friends are starting to notice changes. The hard part about being at this point in the fitness journey or the fat loss journey is that if we weren't to be taking photos, you'd probably convince yourself that you're not making any progress because that is just the human nature of the brain. And so I'm making this video to help you in this process and give you a sense of encouragement and a sense of clarity and trust in a plan that you can follow for the days when you are doubting yourself or for the days when you feel like it's not working or you feel frustrated or you feel discouraged. Because I know what it feels like. I've been there. I've been that girl who doesn't know what to do. Am I doing the right thing? Should I keep going? Should I stop? Is this working? And ultimately, you want to make those videos for people that are in that same position and they need something that they can trust to be able to get the results. So in this video, I'm going to break it all down for you so you can have all those answers. And on your tough days, you know that you're doing the right stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the very first step. Now, if you haven't done this for yourself, I encourage you to do so because it is imperative to reaching whatever goal it is that you want to achieve. Write down and establish what your goal is and be as detailed as you possibly can because the broader it is, the harder it is to actually achieve. When you sit down and write down actual metrics that you want to be able to do and you're very detailed in it, it gives you almost a roadmap to be able to figure out how to get there, right? If you're just like, oh, I want to lose weight, that's very broad. And there's probably a million ways for you to do that. But if you're like, oh, I want to improve my endurance, I want to have healthy eating habits, I want to be able to do a pull up, I want to be able to run a mile, whatever it is, that'll help you figure out which direction you should take to be able to lose that fat, build that muscle, to improve all those metrics that I just mentioned. So let's go ahead and look at her goals here as I have every single client list what their goals are, short and long term, before we start working together. Short-term goals are to develop healthy eating habits and a workout habit. Long-term goal is to reach my dream physique and have the knowledge to keep going. Now, I do want to say a few things here about her goals specifically. One thing that I love is that her short-term goals are very process-based. So she's not like, I want to lose 10 pounds. She's like, I want to have a healthy eating habit. I want to have a healthy workout habit. That is something that you can almost guarantee that you can do by simply showing up. Whereas the scale will fluctuate. You can't really control other factors that come into play when it comes to weight loss and muscle growth. These are a lot easier to guarantee because it's as simple as, are you going to do it or are you not? Now, her goals could have been a lot more specific, like I just said, but when I help you understand her current position, you'll see why her goals were as broad as they were. So after you establish your goals as detailed as you can, you're going to want to understand your current position in as much detail as you can. Understand why you are where you're at. Be realistic, be honest with yourself. Sometimes we look at ourselves in the mirror with rose colored glasses and we think that everything is fine because we don't want to admit that we're actually a lot worse off than we want to be. So just being realistic, being detailed, and being honest with yourself about where you're at and how you got there is imperative to helping you get to that point B that you described in such detail and the goals that you want to reach. Looking at her current position specifically, she is basically brand new to the gym or brand new to resistance training. She pretty much just did Pilates, didn't really do any cardio, didn't really do any resistance training, and didn't know much about food and nutrition, which is why those goals that I just read to you were a little bit broad. She didn't really know what metrics to aim for simply because she was new to this. She's a novice lifter. So You couldn't expect her to know the details that she wanted to aim for. She just knew that she wanted to change. So the way that I get every single client I have results is by building them what I call the PI mechanism. Now, the PI mechanism is a mechanism that I build for every single client based on their physiological and their psychological factors. So think of the mechanism that I'm building as the car that gets them from point A to point B. They're responsible for putting in the gas to the car, but I'm responsible for constructing the car and helping them steer it. All they have to do is put in the effort, and then when they're lacking in the gas department or the effort department, I have to figure out why to ensure that they're able to continue to drive to point B. So now let's hop into building the actual mechanism and how we did it for her. There's a few things that I want to say before we get into step one, and those things are: the more efficient this mechanism is, or your engine is, the less fuel you're going to waste or effort you're going to waste, which is why having this mechanism is extremely important. And a mechanism is essentially something physical or abstract that you can put something into and get a specific result out of. Now I'm going to walk you through how we built one for her so that you can build one for yourself alongside me in this video. So step one is understanding the mind. Why do you do the things that you do? And why do you think the way that you do? What are some limiting beliefs that you have about yourself? What are some things that you believe to be true that aren't necessarily true? You've just kind of assumed it to be true. And so those things are limiting you. Stuff like that. So the issues with her was that she didn't handle stress well. She wasn't really able to push herself, and she had a lot of lack of self-belief that caused her to be stuck in this current position, and she couldn't figure out why, because she just believed those things to be true and that she couldn't change them. So step one of building her plan was understanding those specific things about her mind and the way that it was wired so that we could work on unworking those things and being able to rewire it to get her that success. So once we understood her thought process, her perspective, and the beliefs that she had about herself, it led us into step two of the PI mechanism. Now that is analyzing your patterns. Now, those points in the mind that I just mentioned, like the way that she thought, the beliefs that she had about herself, all those things cause you to do a set of actions that we are going to call a pattern. Right? So I'll put it into an example with her. She had a really stressful day at work, which she thought that she could not handle, and it was unbearable to her. She just said, I can't handle this. This is too much. So it would lead for her to go off of her nutrition plan. It would lead for her to binge. It would lead for her to go get fast food. Every single person has a set of patterns that they do almost on autopilot whenever those points in their mind are triggered, right? So those weaknesses that we've identified in their mind, those things get triggered by stressors in life and different situations that then lead for you to do these patterns on autopilot because you're not very good at handling stress, you're not very disciplined, you're not very consistent. For her, like that example that I just mentioned, she had a really stressful day at work and thought she couldn't handle it because she never ever tried to handle it on her own, that she would just go and get fast food, or she would just go and bed rot, or she would just go and doom scroll. So identifying the weaknesses that you have in your mind and then analyzing the patterns that you tend to do afterwards when those things are triggered that you usually do on autopilot is the first two steps of the PI mechanism, and it's the psychological side of building that PI mechanism. So now that we've identified her mental weaknesses and the patterns that tend to follow afterwards on autopilot, we can then address them and rewire the brain to be able to lean into the training and nutrition we're going to build afterwards in steps 3 and 4. Now, 50% of these problems that I'm mentioning here are solved simply by acknowledging them. Steps 1 and 2 are solely based on psychologically analyzing yourself and figuring out why you do the things that you do and what is leading you to be in that current position. Because the way that you think, your perspective, the threshold that you have to be able to handle stress is the exact reason you are where you are, whether you like where you are or not. That is the reason why you live the life that you live, why you have the things that you have the body that you have. It is all a result of the way that you think. That is going to go ahead and lead me into step number 3. So now we have construct the machine. So now that we understand, okay, what are your weak points in your mind? What are the patterns that you tend to do afterwards? We can build your training and nutrition around those and address those things to help rewire your brain. So for example, I mentioned previously that she really struggled with stress at work. And then when she would come home from work, she would tend to throw her plans out the window because work was so stressful that she didn't have the mental capacity to be able to continue with training and nutrition after working all day. She would come home, doom scroll, and then end up going out to eat because she had such a stressful day at work, she just couldn't handle it. So what protocol did we put in place? So now when it came to structuring her training, I had her go to the gym directly after work so that she didn't have the capability to be able to allow herself to doom scroll, to negotiate her way out of going to do what she knows she needed to do. And so she goes, does her workout, gets her steps in, comes home, and because she had that little win that pulled her out of that stressful moment, she was able to feel dialed in with her nutrition because she felt proud of herself for going to the gym. So by forcing her to go to the gym directly after work instead of allowing her that time to go home and possibly fall off track, she was able to pull herself out of that stressful situation and teach herself that she can handle a lot more than she thinks. And honestly, she was able to use this training to help give her clarity after having a stressful day instead of reaching for a bag of chips, instead of going to binge. And so she felt more positive and proud of herself afterwards, which helped her stay consistent on this journey. So now when it came to the actual practical implementation, I tried to align majority of her workouts with her work days. I had her structure her gym schedule around her work schedule so that it can help mitigate a lot of the stress that she experienced at work and also help keep her on track. Now, when it came to her cardio, she did that after training on top of having a step goal. Cardio was beneficial for two reasons, obviously for fat loss, but most importantly for the mental win. And if you guys know me at all, I focus on developing and training your mentality to then see physical results later. Your physique is a lagging indicator of how well you've developed your mindset. And so I always focus on the mental wins, and everything that she does is, yes, good for fat loss and in terms of training and nutrition, but mainly good for mental wins to help her stay consistent and also give her the results that she's looking for by developing her into the person who has the physique that she wants. She also had a step goal, again, great for fat loss, but more importantly, helped her get another win under her belt, as well as encouraging her to go on walks to help with mental clarity and also go on walks after each meal so that she could have proper digestion. So in terms of what we implemented for her nutrition, she had different nutrient levels on her training and her rest day. So very basic carb cycling. With her, she is someone who liked a lot of variety, so we decided to build her a few different meal plans so she could wake up and decide what she wanted to have and not feel constricted to one. I also worked really closely with her in terms of giving her recipes and helping her be a better cook so that she actually enjoyed her meals at home. I sent her some grocery lists and things that she should buy at the store, on top of logging everything that she's been eating and making her meals at home. It was realistically pretty easy to keep her on track. Now, her main struggle beforehand was when she experienced a lot of stress at work, she didn't have the knowledge or the tools available to be able to make this part not stressful. Like when you have a stressful day at work and you have to come home and think about how you're going to hit your protein or what you're going to train in the gym, it's just going to make you not want to do it because it's going to stress you out. But when you have a clear-cut plan with training and nutrition and what you're going to do, because I'm handling it for her and I'm building it for her, she doesn't have to think. She doesn't have to make any decisions. She can turn her brain off and just focus on getting one more rep, pushing herself in the gym, having more intensity. And then when she gets home, she knows what to eat. She has a full grocery list. She has a full recipe list. She knows what to do. It eliminates the extra stress that working out and losing weight and being on your fitness journey tends to cause for most people because they don't know what to do. And so essentially that is what her machine looked like for her. 4 to 5 days of training per week aligned with her work schedule, cardio afterwards for mental and physical benefits. Now, when it came to nutrition, the best approach with her was cooking her favorite fast food meals at home to reduce the caloric intake, as well as giving her a full grocery list and then building her different meal plans so she had variety when she woke up and didn't feel stuck to some rigid diet plan. So now that's going to lead us into step 4 and the process of implementing this from a coaching standpoint, because when you're doing this, you're going to be coaching yourself. So this is going to be how you're going to do that for yourself, and you're going to coach yourself through this. So once we've constructed that machine, like I said, everything that we did for her, we're going to rate her adherence. Now, there's 2 different options here. So if she's adhering 5 out of 10, that is honestly really good for someone who has never stepped foot in the gym and doesn't really know much about nutrition. Once you get between 5 to 10 in adherence, you can move up and start stacking on more habits. So let's say you start now having a water goal, you now have a sleep goal, now you have a stress management goal. You can start adding more on top of that because she's not struggling. She's clearly adhering to it. You can go ahead and add on more things that she needs to do to get better results and ultimately speed up the process. And then after you stack on those habits, that'll lead you to getting consistent results. And it's my job as the coach to monitor and adjust as necessary. So that it's her job just to show up and put in the effort. And then she masters efficiency on her own. She learns what to do. She understands her body. She understands digestion. She knows what she needs to eat. And then boom, that leads us either into the dream state reach, so her dream physique, or she's at a point where she's lean enough and now she wants to focus on building muscle mass or improving her physique and go into a bulk or a growth phase or whatever the case may be. So let's go back to rating the adherence, because she did not have a 5 out of 10 for the first few weeks. It was really hard for her. I would say that her adherence was like a 3 to 4 out of 10, maybe 5 out of 10 on some good weeks. So if your adherence is below a 5 out of 10, the first thing that you need to do is analyze the symptoms to address the root cause. Are you not feeling motivated? Are you feeling like you can't do it? Are you struggling to be consistent? Why aren't you adhering? Like, just figure out the reason why you're not adhering to it. Once you've figured out the reason, you need to determine, is it a mental issue or a practical implementation issue? Is it an issue with your mindset and your discipline, or is it an issue with your schedule? Like, do you not have time in the day to be able to go 5 days out of the week? That's fine. Let's decrease it to 3 or 4. Are you setting unrealistic expectations for yourself in terms of the responsibilities that you have in your life? Cool, we can change things. We can make adjustments. The beautiful thing with issues and practical implementation is nutrition, training, cardio, sleep, water. All those things are levers that you can adjust and pull to still get the same desired result. So those are things that you can change and adjust to a certain person's schedule that is still going to be able to get them results even if they have less or more time. An example for her was the whole working out in the morning being moved to working out after work to help relieve stress and pull her out of that rough headspace that she was in because of all the stress that she experienced at work. That's an example of practical implementation that we can change that doesn't really make a difference in terms of the results that you're going to get, but helps increase adherence significantly. And so if it's a practical implementation issue, you just make the adjustment and then you go back and you rate the adherence and you keep doing it until adherence then leads you to 5 to 10 out of 10. But the main issue that remains even after the adjustments to practical implementation with a lot of people is the mental side of things. So if it's a mental issue like it was for her for many of the first weeks that we started, what I do as a coach is hold an accountability meeting. I will book a call and we will have a whole call based on reframing your mindset and figuring out how badly do you want this, what is the issue here, and what we need to do to be able to increase your mental strength to help take you to your physical goals. So after that accountability meeting with me, that will lead me to build you or implement a specific protocol to train the brain out of the issue. So again, the specific protocol is dependent on the client's specific problem, but for her, it was stress management and discipline. So what we would do is do morning journaling, a little bit of diaphragmatic breathing, and water upon waking, limit doom scrolling, and implement that for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, we review the adherence to the said protocol that we put in place, address if the issue has been fixed or not, and then it'll lead us back to rating the adherence out of 10 when it comes to the machine that we've constructed. And then we keep doing that circle until we get to a 5 to 10 out of 10. Now, usually when it's a mentality issue or a mindset issue and we have the accountability meeting and I implement the protocol and I watch them closely for 2 weeks and then review everything that they've done and discuss it with them, it only takes one time around that for them to kind of lock in. Because when it comes to being a coach, I may seem harsh, I may seem very matter of fact, but I mean it with love and I mean it with results, because at the end of the day, you are hiring me to get you out of wherever you're currently stuck. And a lot of that requires me to be very real, very matter of fact, and very honest, but trust that I mean it with love. So once we go through the circle and we go back to rating adherence out of 10, usually if it's practical and we've made the adjustments, the adherence then bumps up to over 5 out of 10. Or if it's a mental and we have the reframing meeting and we go through that entire process to retrain the brain, the adherence is usually then a 5+ out of 10. And then we can move on to the habit stacking and adding on to the current things that we're already doing to get better and faster results, because the mental strength is finally developing, allowing us more capacity to handle a load of work to be able to get more physical results. And then that'll lead us into getting consistent results, monitor and adjust as necessary. Now, since you're going to be your own coach, you want to make sure that you're monitoring all your metrics. So making sure that the scale is decreasing, making sure that composition is improving, making sure that you feel stronger, making sure that your energy is improving, all those things are moving in the right direction. Now, the current point that she's at is consistent results where I'm monitoring and adjusting as necessary. That is going to end up getting her to the dream state reach. So she's currently right here working towards this blue square. Now, that is the exact process and mechanism that I built for her to be able to get her the results that she has gotten, and also what she's going to continue to work on to get her to the dream state. This is also the same mechanism and process I use for all of my clients over here. And if you want me to be your coach to build this for you and also coach you through it, I will leave a link in the description of this video to book a call with me and see if you'd be a good fit. If you have absolutely any questions or need any help at all, I will leave the link to my Instagram in the description of this video where you can DM me and I will get back to you with a voice message. As always, guys, do not forget to do hard shit and be confident, but most importantly, remember how much I love you guys and how much I'm rooting for y'all. I will link my video about the pie mechanism right up here. I love you guys so much. Thank y'all so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.